What if I told you that the only thing standing between you and the life you dream of is a decision you haven't made yet? That your destiny isn't something you wait for, it's something you build. This isn't just motivation, this is transformation. So buckle up, because today we're diving deep into the power that lives inside you, the power to unlock your dreams of destiny. Step 1, clarity is power. Clarity is the foundation upon which all great achievements are built. When you know exactly what you want down to the finest details, something profound happens inside you. Your brain stops guessing, your emotions stop wandering, your energy stops being scattered. Instead, everything begins to align. Clarity gives your life direction, purpose, and momentum. It's the difference between running in circles and running a race with the finish line in sight. Imagine walking through a fog. You might take a few steps forward, but you're hesitant, unsure, constantly second-guessing. Now imagine that fog suddenly lifting and you can see exactly where you're headed. Your pace changes, your confidence rises, you start moving with certainty. That's what clarity does to your dreams. It cuts through the noise, the doubt, the distractions. It gives your mind a target, and when your mind has a target, your actions begin to have purpose. Most people never reach their full potential, not because they lack talent, opportunity, or intelligence, but because they've never taken the time to define what they really want. They're vague. They say things like, I want to be successful, or I want to be happy, but they haven't defined what success looks like or what happiness actually means to them. And if you can't define it, you can't pursue it with passion. You can't strategize around it. You can't measure it. You can't win a game you don't understand. But clarity doesn't just create vision, it creates hunger. When you can see it, you start to feel it. And when you feel it, you start to fight for it. Your mind begins filtering out everything that doesn't align with that vision. Suddenly the distractions that once consumed you lose their power. The excuses that once delayed you start to sound hollow. You begin to say no to the wrong things and yes to the right ones. You become laser focused, locked in, obsessed with progress. Because now you know what progress actually looks like. Clarity also has a magnetic quality to it. When you're clear about who you are, what you want, and where you're going, people notice. Opportunities begin to show up. Doors open, resources appear. Not because the world magically changed, but because your perception did. You're no longer operating in reaction mode. You're leading your life with intention. You're commanding your focus. You're steering your ship, and that in itself is a superpower. Step 2, your past doesn't define you. Your past is not your prison. It's just a place you've been, not the place you're going. Too many people drag yesterday into today, allowing old failures, regrets, pain, and shame to write the script for their future. But here's the truth. Just because something happened to you doesn't mean it has to keep happening through you. Your history may have shaped you, but it does not have the authority to limit you unless you hand it the pen and ask it to keep writing your story. We all have moments we're not proud of, decisions we wish we could undo, circumstances we didn't choose, heartbreaks we didn't ask for, but life isn't about what happens to you. It's about what you do next. The past is fixed. It can't be edited, rewound, or deleted, but your response to it, that's where your freedom lies. That's where your power begins. The most powerful transformation starts the moment you decide that your past is not the ceiling of your life, but the floor you launch from. People stay stuck because they've made an unconscious agreement with their pain. They say things like, this is just who I am, or I've always been this way, or I guess I'm just not the kind of person who can succeed. But none of that is truth. It's a story. And stories can be rewritten. What you did is not who you are. What happened to you is not a life sentence. Every single day you wake up with breath in your lungs is another chance to take back the pen and choose a new narrative. There's a difference between learning from your past and living in it. Learning gives you wisdom. Living in it gives you walls. When you cling to guilt, shame, or bitterness, it clouds your vision and dims your potential. It convinces you that you're damaged, broken, unworthy. But you're not. You're becoming. You're evolving. Every scar, every setback, every fall is raw material for your rise if you let it be. The past only has power when you keep feeding it your focus, but the moment you shift your attention from what was to what could be, something changes inside you. Your identity starts to shift. You stop defining yourself by your wounds and start defining yourself by your will. You begin to realize that you're not a product of your circumstances, you're a product of your choices. And even if you were handed a rough start, you can still finish strong. Step 3, decisions shape destiny. Every moment of your life, you are making decisions. Some feel small, what to eat, what to say, when to show up. But even those seemingly minor choices stack up, building the architecture of your reality. Decisions are the invisible chisels carving out the sculpture of your destiny. The life you're living right now is not a random set of circumstances. It's the result of the decisions you've made, consciously or unconsciously, day after day, moment after moment. People often think their future is determined by luck, fate, or talent, but if you look closely at anyone who's built something extraordinary, you'll find a pattern of powerful decisions. Decisions made in fear and in courage. Decisions made in uncertainty and in faith. These are the turning points that shape everything. You don't become successful by accident. You become successful because you made decisions that aligned with who you wanted to become, even when it was hard, even when no one else understood. Every breakthrough begins with a decision to start, a decision to change, a decision to no longer tolerate what's been holding you back. People stay stuck not because they lack ability, but because they're paralyzed by indecision. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect sign. But the truth is, progress doesn't come from waiting, it comes from choosing to move forward, to take a risk, to bet on yourself. There's also power in deciding what you no longer accept. When you raise your standards, when you decide that fear will no longer control you, that your past will no longer define you, that your environment will no longer limit you, your entire life begins to shift. It doesn't mean it gets easy. It means it gets aligned with your purpose, aligned with your values, aligned with the version of you that's been waiting to emerge. The most dangerous place to live is in maybe. Maybe I'll start that business. Maybe I'll leave that toxic relationship. Maybe I'll pursue what really matters. But maybe keeps you in limbo. It's the graveyard where dreams go to die. Real transformation begins with a real decision, one that's non-negotiable, one that says, I'm done settling. I'm done circling the same mountain. I choose to rise. And once you decide, really decide, the universe starts to move with you. Doors open, resources appear, not because of magic, but because your commitment changes how you show up. You stop hesitating, you start acting. You walk differently, speak differently, think differently. Because you're no longer hoping for your destiny, you're creating it, one decision at a time. Step 4, emotion fuels action. Logic may direct the mind, but emotion drives the body. You have all the knowledge in the world, the perfect strategy, the most detailed plan, but if there's no emotion behind it, there's no energy. And without energy, there's no movement. Emotion is the ignition switch to action. It's the spark that turns intention into execution. When you feel something deeply, whether it's desire, hunger, love, pain, or even anger, that emotion creates a state inside you that demands expression. It moves you. It compels you to act. Think about the moments in your life when you made a radical change. Maybe you left a toxic situation, made a bold career move, finally took your health seriously. What was present in those moments? Emotion. Not just the idea of change, but a feeling so strong that it overpowered your excuses. Maybe it was frustration reaching a boiling point. Maybe it was inspiration striking like lightning. Maybe it was love for your family, or the burning desire to no longer feel stuck. Whatever it was, it lit a fire inside you that logic alone never could. People often believe they need more discipline or more willpower, but what they actually need is a stronger emotional connection to their why. Willpower fades, discipline can be trained, but it's emotion that sustains. When you're emotionally connected to your outcome, obstacles become challenges, not roadblocks. Rejection doesn't derail you, it refocuses you. Failure doesn't defeat you, it refines you. Because when your emotions are fully invested in the outcome, quitting is no longer an option you consider. Emotion doesn't just give you energy, it gives you clarity. It helps you decide what really matters. In those moments of intensity, your values rise to the surface. You suddenly remember why you started. You reconnect with who you are and what you're capable of. And that emotional clarity allows you to cut through distractions, fears, and doubts with a kind of inner fire that makes progress feel inevitable. And emotion isn't just about pain or struggle. Positive emotion, excitement, gratitude, joy can be even more powerful. When you learn to generate those states on demand, you don't have to wait for a crisis to take action. You can move from a place of inspiration instead of desperation. You can train yourself to associate action with feeling good, with being alive, with being connected to something bigger than yourself. So there's a reason people go to live events, listen to powerful music, or surround themselves with passionate communities. They're not just looking for information, they're seeking emotional fuel. Because deep down, we all know that the more emotionally invested we are, the more likely we are to follow through. You don't just act because it makes sense, you act because it matters. Because something inside of you feels the urgency, the significance, the pull towards something greater. The truth is, emotion is the lever that moves the human soul. When you align your heart with your goals, when you give yourself permission to feel deeply and fully, your actions start to carry the weight of purpose. They become more than tasks, they become a form of expression, a declaration, a commitment. And from that place, you become unstoppable. Step 5, massive action creates change. Change doesn't come from thinking about it. It doesn't come from hoping for it, journaling about it, or endlessly preparing for the perfect moment. Real change, the kind that transforms your life, your mindset, your circumstances, comes from taking massive action. Not tentative, not occasional, not when it's convenient. Massive, relentless, consistent. It's the kind of action that moves the needle so hard the world can't help but take notice. Most people are waiting for clarity, waiting for permission, waiting for confidence. But confidence doesn't precede action, it follows it. You act first. You leap, you move, even when you're unsure, scared, or uncertain. Because massive action doesn't require perfection, it requires commitment. When you act massively, you overpower inertia. You break through the walls of hesitation, procrastination, and fear because you don't give them time to build a case. Taking massive action means you stop negotiating with your goals. You stop dipping your toes into the waters of change and cannonball into it with full force. It means you don't just write down the vision, you build the blueprint, and then you get to work brick by brick, hour by hour, without waiting for someone to rescue you, because no one's coming. You are the rescue. You are the one who has to show up loud, clear, and bold. And it's not about doing a million different things. It's about doing the right things with intensity, focus, and volume. You don't casually create a breakthrough. You pursue it with urgency. When you take massive action, you compress time. What might take others years, you accomplish in months or even weeks, because you're not dabbling, you're dominating. You're not playing small, you're not asking if you're ready, you're deciding you already are, and then backing it up with behavior that reflects that belief. It's also about creating momentum. There's a reason why action breeds clarity and not the other way around. The more you move, the more you learn. The more you do, the more feedback you get, and that feedback becomes your fuel. You start to refine your approach, sharpen your instincts, adjust your strategy. Not by thinking about it, but by experiencing it. Action is the fastest teacher there is. You can't think your way into mastery, you work your way there. Massive action doesn't mean reckless, it means decisive. It means you're no longer stuck in analysis paralysis. You're experimenting, adapting, evolving rapidly. And when others are still sitting on the sidelines wondering if now is the right time, you're already 10 steps ahead, not because you're better, but because you moved. You see, taking massive action separates the dreamers from the doers. Everyone wants the result. Everyone wants the breakthrough. But only a few are willing to put in the level of effort intensity, and repetition that real change demands. And that level of effort doesn't just shift outcomes, it transforms identities. You don't just do more, you become more. You step into the mindset, the discipline, and the power of the person capable of sustaining that change. You go from hoping to happening, from talking to becoming, from reacting to creating, because massive action is not about what you wish for, it's about what you work for. Step 6, your destiny demands discipline. Destiny isn't something that shows up at your doorstep one day with a ribbon on it. It's something you build, brick by brick, decision by decision, day after day. And the cement that holds all those bricks together is discipline. Without it, dreams stay dreams, goals stay ideas, potential stays locked inside, never expressed, because the truth is, your destiny doesn't respond to your feelings, your moods, or your excuses. It responds to your habits. It's your consistency, to the level of discipline you're willing to bring when no one's watching, when motivation is gone, when comfort is calling your name. Discipline is doing what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. It's the quiet power that separates those who wish from those who win. It's what keeps you grounded when everything around you is chaos. It's the voice inside that says, I don't care if it's hard, I'm doing it anyway. Because the path to greatness isn't paved with shortcuts or lucky breaks. It's paved with early mornings, hard choices, and sacrifices no one claps for. People think discipline is about restriction, about saying no to pleasure or spontaneity, but it's actually the ultimate freedom. Because when you're disciplined, you're no longer controlled by your impulses. You're no longer a slave to the moment. You're in control. You choose your actions instead of reacting to your environment. And that control, that ability to stay committed to your vision regardless of how you feel, is what creates real lasting progress. Discipline also builds trust, self-trust. Every time you follow through on what you said you would do, even when it's uncomfortable, you build internal credibility. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who doesn't back down, someone who shows up. And that identity fuels even greater action, because once you believe in your own consistency, you stop negotiating with your goals. You just execute. The world is full of talented people who never achieved their destiny, not because they didn't have the ability, but because they lacked the discipline to stay in the game long enough to see it through. Talent might open the door, but discipline keeps you in the room. Passion may ignite the fire, but discipline keeps it burning when the wind starts to blow. And discipline isn't about being perfect, it's about being committed. You're going to fall off track, you're going to mess up, but discipline says get back up, refocus, recommit. It's the muscle that allows you to bounce back faster, to keep going when most people quit, to keep believing when the results haven't shown up yet. Because deep down you know you don't get your destiny because you want it. You get it because you were willing to work for it when it was hardest to keep going. In the quiet moments, when no one is cheering, when no spotlight is shining, when the reward feels far away, that's when destiny is shaped. That's when discipline shows its value. It's not glamorous. It's not always exciting, but it's sacred, because every act of discipline is a declaration that your future matters more than your comfort. Your purpose matters more than your preference, and your destiny is worth every ounce of effort it requires. So let's be clear. Your destiny is not something that happens to you. It's something you create, one decision at a time. Your clarity gives you the vision to know where you're headed. Your past doesn't define you. It's the lessons from your journey that empower you to move forward. The decisions you make today are the building blocks of your tomorrow. Emotion fuels your action. And when you act with passion, you ignite the momentum that propels you forward. Massive action is the force that breaks through barriers and transforms your dreams into reality. And most importantly, discipline is the force that keeps you on course, no matter the challenges, no matter the setbacks. None of this is easy, but none of it is impossible. Every single person who has achieved greatness did so not because they were born with some special gift, but because they made the choice to take responsibility for their life to act with courage, and to commit to a level of discipline that most aren't willing to embrace. F, you are not a product of your circumstances. You are a product of your choices. And right now, you have the power to make decisions that shape the life you were meant to live. It's time to stop wishing for your dreams and start creating them. Step into your destiny with intention, with purpose, and with unstoppable action, because your dreams are waiting for you, and it's time to make them your reality.